Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I'm going to be your host on this afternoon, and today's a little bit of a special day that we have today. Today is Groundhog Day, which, if you are not familiar, Groundhog Day is one of my, this is a little bit of a niche fact about myself. Groundhog Day is actually one of my favorite holidays that is out there, and I say that half jokingly, but I also love Groundhog Day just overall with the festivities. We were actually doing a little bit of a show, I think 2 years ago on Groundhog Day. Casey and I did with Coach Holt and Mike Salas, who's now over with Tim Rogers over at Blue Madness Dodgers 2080. And I talked a little bit about how much I love Groundhog Day, and it's just the festivities that are a part of it, and just the hilarious nature of a weather predicting rodent basically 80% of the time telling people that they're going to have 6 more weeks of winter, just the status quo of what it normally is, which, if you are in the state of Michigan, a little bit of a big deal because it has been freezing over here. But Groundhog Day, super fun day. But what I wanted to do with a little bit of this show, just kind of in the theme of Groundhog Day, no, we're not going to do the same thing over and over again, but we're going to do something that we took a little bit out of in some of the previous episodes that I've done, is we're going to go ahead and go back to some of our projections for innings pitched and plate appearances. We're actually going to be utilizing some of the resources that I've created in the past. We went over it maybe about a month and a half ago, but I want to revisit it under the theme of Groundhog Day. Punxsutawney Phil, the prognosticator of prognosticators. We're going to be doing a little bit of prognosticating of ourselves. And the reason why I want to do that is because I think there is at least a slight concern that the Los Angeles Dodgers could have as part of their team with some of the news that have come out. I'm not saying there should be any sort of panic, but to what degree of concern should we have in particular for the starting rotation? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. First off, with this show, this is actually the first show that I'm doing this on my new computer, my new laptop. If any of the settings or anything looks a little bit off, looks a little bit weird, please let me know. I'll be happy to address that, try to fix that as quickly as I possibly can. Might be a little bit tricky to be able to do that on the fly, but I'll do my very best. So please let me know anything that's going on. And anything that you guys want to talk about, more than happy to be able to talk about with you guys. Terry, thank you very much for joining us. CNAV, Christopher Navarro, thank you for joining us. Chuck Huddleston, 80 at my house, got the ceiling fan going. It is not 80 degrees here in the state of Michigan. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, so back to you. In CNAV, 75 degrees at the beach, 83 on Wednesday. There's no place like home. Definitely very different from the environment that I have. I'll just quickly address the question Terry had mentioned. That I'm not going to spend a ton of the show on this because I think Casey and I have talked a little bit about this in some of the previous shows that we've had here, Dodgers Dawgs, as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Ryan Ward is a really difficult case to be able to make a determination of what the Dodgers are going to be able to do, because I don't think there is a defined place for him on the Los Angeles Dodgers aside from injury. This thing that I've stated repeatedly is Ryan Ward does not have the ability to play center field. He very much is a left field, can fill in at right field, but he's going to be a corner outfielder, maybe can fill in at first base, although I would prefer a lot of those plate appearances for when there does occasionally come open spots to go to Dalton Rushing. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of plate appearances for Ryan Ward at first base. It is almost certainly going to come either in left field and right field. And I think the only way that you can realistically say this is something that can happen for Ryan Ward to be able to find a way to be able to get onto this roster is if there's any sort of injury. The thing that I've talked about in comparing Ryan Ward to Alex Call for that fourth outfielder is Alex Call does something very specific that Ryan Ward does not do, and that is Alex Call at least has the ability to play center field. Teoscar can't play center field. Kyle Tucker can't play center field. Andy Pages is your only center fielder on the roster right now, with Tommy Edman potentially missing time on the injured list. The only other option potentially could be a Ha-Seong Kim, but he hasn't had a ton of experience out there, and I don't think you want an outfield defense of Teoscar, Kim, and Kyle Tucker out there. So I think they need an Alex Call over a Ryan Ward, which leads to, I think, one of two options, or three options that you could have for a Ryan Ward. One, I think the main thing that the Dodgers could potentially do if he's on this roster and this is ultimately the choice that they could make if he stays on the 40-man roster. He spends a lot of time in Oklahoma City. And I don't think that is fair to Ryan Ward at all based off the season that he had, Pacific Coast League MVP. I think he's somebody that very much deserves an opportunity. And I think the Dodgers, because of where Ryan Ward was at in his career, the Dodgers should do something right by Ryan Ward. That has been my consistent argument ever since the Dodgers added him to the 40-man roster. So I think that is a potential possibility to where Ryan Ward has to continue to showcase his skills and talents in Oklahoma City. He can wait for some type of injury, or the Dodgers can go ahead and move off of him. My preferred choice would be the third option, just because I think that's going to be the best long-term opportunity for Ryan Ward, and I don't hope for any type of injury for a Teoscar Hernandez and a Kyle Tucker. So Ryan Ward, very precarious spot. I am not projecting a whole lot of playing time for him at all, and I don't think that is completely fair to Ryan Ward, the individual human being, and for him as an individual human being, and with the talent that he has on the baseball field, I want him to go and seek another opportunity elsewhere. Or at least I want the Dodgers to provide an opportunity for him to seek another opportunity elsewhere. And I think even if one of the other arguments that you could make is you want a left-handed bat off the bench, I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot of room off of this bench. Because you're going to have a Miguel Rojas, you're going to have an Alex Call, you're going to have a Dalton Rushing, then that leaves one more spot. I don't think you want a fifth outfielder that can only play the outfield to where you have five guys that can only play out the outfield, and one of the and with that case, three of those guys are everyday type of players. So I just don't think there's any type of role for Ryan Ward, unfortunately, on this team, which has to do with the talent and the roster that this organization has decided to build up. So we'll see what happens with him. Kike Hernandez is somebody who's very likely to be able to come back into the mix. Plus, they have some development of some of the young guys like a Kim or a Freeland that they seemingly see at least a little bit more of a future with potential at this organization. So I think they would prioritize their plate appearances over Ryan Ward. So I would move on from Ryan Ward if at all possible. That's my stance. We'll see what the Los Angeles Dodgers do. I hope they do right by the talent that is Wardo. So that's some of my thoughts. Mr. Classic, thank you very much for joining us as well. CNAB bringing back Kike will take whatever at-bats Wardo might have had, send them to the A's, send him to the White Sox, send him to Pittsburgh, send him to Minnesota. Honestly, I just want him to get some type of fair opportunity to be able to go out and play. I'm not even overly concerned about the return of what the Dodgers would get. And the reason why I say this is Ryan Ward could have sought whatever opportunity that he had wanted in this free agency because he was destined to be a minor league free agent. But the Dodgers added him on the 40-man roster per the Major League Baseball rules. I don't think it's fair, and this could be something where next collective bargaining agreement, sorry, mixed up my words a little bit. Next collective bargaining agreement, I think this is something that the players and the owners can discuss, because I don't think it is something where, man, you draft a college guy, he spent 6 years at the minor leagues, then you add him to the 40-man roster, and at 3 additional years of just optioning him back down to the minor leagues without getting some playing time. I don't think that's a fair system for the actual player to where, man, they might barely see the major leagues until they're 30-something. I just don't think that's completely fair for Ryan Ward as a player. Long tangent on him. We're going to take it a little bit of a different direction with the show. Instead of talking about Ryan Ward, which we can kind of bring it up a little bit, we're going to be talking a little bit about projecting innings and more or less just go a quick overview of what the plate appearances are. Now, the reason why I want to do this, and this is perhaps a little bit of a fascinating topic we can go ahead and discuss. What is our confidence level with the starting pitching that is within this organization? Which I think for the most part, if we just look at the way that this roster has been constructed and with the 10 starting pitchers that are part of this 40-man roster for the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think there's at least a fair degree of comfortability. You would at least, getting these guys to October, I think you would assume, I think it's pretty fair to say that the Dodgers can at least get a decent amount of these guys to October. Just going over the 10 guys that are going to be part of the Dodgers organization that are the starters as of right now. These are the guys that I have listed as starters. Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani, Rookie Sasaki, Emmett Sheehan, Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Those are the projected 6 pitchers to make the Major League roster, or when they are healthy to be on the Major League club. And then the optional guys being Landon Knack, River Ryan, Gavin Stone, and Justin Robleski in alphabetical order for all of those options. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because Dodger Fest happened this past weekend. Now, I did not get a chance to be able to watch Sportsnet LA all the different coverage. I've been trying to keep up, or catch up, I should say, with some of the other Dodgers shows, with David Vassegh, with some of the interviews that he had with some of the players. But there were some rumblings that came out over the past week that I think provide at least a little bit of a caution to some of the Dodgers fans, and it has to do with Blake Snell. How concerned are we with Blake Snell that he is going to be healthy, ready to go, going into this upcoming season? And the reason why I bring this up is there seemingly is some concerns about Blake Snell being ready to go for opening day. Now, if you listen to David Vassegh, Blake Snell with David Vassegh, Blake Snell seemed rather confident that he's going to be ready for opening day. So perhaps this is perhaps there's a little bit of a nothing burger that's going out there. But I think there is some concerns, at least internally within the Dodgers organization, about the health and toll that the postseason had, especially with Blake Snell ramping up, going into the postseason, and him going out there and competing in some very high stress leverage type of innings, and the Dodgers heavily utilizing Blake Snell in the postseason. Let's not forget, this is the same Blake Snell who, during some of the rounds of the postseason, would go out and pitch 8 to 9 innings during an individual game. He would go out there and absolutely dominated the Milwaukee Brewers, had a really good outing against the Philadelphia Phillies, did a lot of stuff in the postseason that was spectacular. Those are high stress innings that Blake Snell pitched. And this is with Blake Snell coming back from an injury mid-season. So the question is, how much wear and tear did that have on his arm? How much wear and tear did that have on his shoulder? And at least based off of some of the reporting that's out there, it is possible, not saying that this is going to happen, but it is possible that it could be a little bit of a slower ramp up for Blake Snell. Now, the reason why I want to highlight Blake Snell in this in particular is because I don't think Blake Snell is completely alone in the high stress type of innings that the starting pitchers had to pitch. Every single one of the starters had to pitch high-stress innings. None more so than Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Obviously, pitched some high-stress situations. Tyler Glasnow pitched some high-stress situations. Shohei Ohtani pitched in some high-stress type of situations. And those are the innings that you worry about the most. It's the ones where it's the high-leverage innings that you want to go out and empty the tank as best as you can to give your team as best of a chance as it possibly can be. And that can have consequences, especially when you have a short offseason like the Los Angeles Dodgers are once again having, and it is a privilege for the Dodgers to have a short offseason. But the reason why I mentioned Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is because if you look at this rotation, those are the two workhorses of this rotation. Tyler Glasnow has not pitched over 120 innings during the course of the regular season the past several years. He's not your typical, or can't really be relied upon on the workhorse. He might have pitched over 120 in 2024 with the Dodgers, but his season ended prematurely. I believe that's what it was. Shohei Ohtani, coming back from injury, how much can he actually be relied upon? We saw him get a very slow ramp up during the course of this previous season. Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitched heavily and were taxed heavily during the course of the postseason, to where I don't think the Dodgers want to have them be the workhorses, because they want them to be the guys that are available, because I think those are the two guys, if you were to pitch in October or pick two guys that you would trust pitching in October, those are the two guys, and it's not even close at this point, or at least it's a pretty clear statement that those are the two guys that you would trust in the postseason. And then you're getting into Rookie Sasaki, who missed a majority of last season with injury. You're talking about an Emmett Sheehan, who also missed a decent amount of last season with some type of injury. How much are they going to want to work him up this upcoming season, or is there going to be some innings limits? You look at some of the depth at AAA, right? River Ryan and Gavin Stone, while there appears to not be a whole lot of playing time for them, there could be some additional run for them to be able to get opportunities, but both of them are coming back from injury. Landon Knack is also somebody who is on this roster who I think is probably going to have a little bit more of a distinguished role earlier in the season, especially with potentially all of these injuries that you see, and especially with, man, the Dodgers needing somebody that can go up and down. Landon Knack absolutely is that guy during his last minor league option year. And then you also have Justin Robleski, who's kind of a hybrid. Is he a starter? Is he a reliever? Which one do we want to go ahead and utilize him as? There's a lot of question marks health-wise during the course of the regular season on how the Dodgers are going to get through this season. So the reason why I want to bring this up is a question of should there or is there any type of concern that you have, not necessarily with October, although what happens in the regular season, the use that you put each one of these guys through in the regular season does correlate with what happens in October. Is there some concern that this rotation perhaps is not quite as healthy or perhaps might need a little bit of additional help in the regular season? Those are some real question marks that I have with the Blake Snell situation. Now, this is not to say that he will miss opening day, but I think there is at least some concern, or at least in the Dodgers' mind, they want to be as safe as possible with a guy like a Blake Snell, because they do not want him to use up all of his bullets early in the season and have him not be available in October. They want to make sure he's 100% ready to go going into this regular season before they go ahead and throw him out there. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Blake Snell, but there at least is some question marks with how they're going to utilize each one of these pieces and how to strategically go ahead and provide some rest for each one of these guys. And if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, how many innings do you want each of these guys to go ahead and throw, each one of these guys to go ahead and pitch? That remains a question mark for the Dodgers. So what we're going to go ahead and do, if we can go ahead and, yeah, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and cut over to the screen recorder that we have right here, or at least the spreadsheet that we have. Now, first off, you'll recognize if you've been part of the show or at least listened to some of the shows that I've done in the past, this one should at least be fairly familiar. This was the projecting the plate appearances for the players. I actually updated this. I added Kyle Tucker. I added Andy Ibanez and shifted around some things with plate appearances. I know this isn't the starting pitching or the pitching in general, but this is what you're looking at, projected plate appearances, at least as of right now. This plate appearances, I believe, is all regular season plate appearances right here. You have about 6,200 plate appearances if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers that you can go ahead and give out throughout the course of the regular season. These are past plate appearances by year and past WRC plus statistics. So just some notable changes that I made to this one with some of my projections. You can go pause this, do a little bit in depth if you want to. Around 600 plate appearances for Kyle Tucker, I think is probably fair. Past 3 years, going from 25 to 23, 597, 339, missed a lot of time with injury, and 674. If he is healthy, he's likely going to get closer to 650 to 670 plate appearances. I just don't know if he gets to that mark during this upcoming year, with Kyle Tucker very likely being the number 2 hitter within this Dodgers lineup. Some of the other changes that I made, Andy Ibanez, I'm honestly not expecting a whole lot of plate appearances for him. Just 50 is what I have projected for a Andy Ibanez. The reason why I only have 50 is I see a very defined role for him early in the season, which is a right-handed bat to hit against left-handed pitching, specifically because there are question marks about Tommy Edman's health in general. And I think once Tommy Edman is ready, healthy, ready to go, and if there's no other injuries that happen that would take away other plate appearances from some of the other guys, I think it's very likely that they would move off of Andy Ibanez, because I think he's a little bit more difficult of a fit than, for example, if the decision became Andy Ibanez, or do we option one of Kim or Alex Freeland. And I think the choice that the Dodgers would probably make, and what they should make, at least based off the offset going into the season, is probably move off of Andy Ibanez, because they would have a lot of right-handed hitters off the bench. You probably want another left-handed hitter, or somebody that can balance out Tommy Edman much better against left-handed pitching than right-handers. You probably want somebody that can hit lefties or right-handers a little bit better in that platoon. So not a whole lot of plate appearances for him. I also downgraded some of the plate appearances for Alex Call because I don't see a whole lot of opportunity for him. Upgraded a little bit for Alex Freeland over Hae-Sung Kim. You could see some of these battles go back and forth with them. I was still able to, and this actually brings up a little bit of a question that we can get perhaps later in the show. Dalton Rushing, I squeezed in 325 plate appearances. It's going to be a little bit difficult to be able to see how he gets each one of those plate appearances. In fact, it's going to require him to play more of first base, which I believe Freddie Freeman wants to play as much first base as he possibly can, wants to play as many games as he possibly can. But for the good of Dalton Rushing's development and for the good of the health of Freddie Freeman, I think Freddie Freeman needs to take some additional days off going into this upcoming season. That's the only way that you could see Dalton Rushing get up close to just over 300 plate appearances during this upcoming year. This is what I have right here, roughly what it is. Should be at least a little bit familiar if you go back maybe about a month and a half ago. I did a show particularly on plate appearances. But what we're going to do is we're going to transition to the starting pitchers, or the pitchers in general. And we're going to go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. Actually, you know what? We're going to stay this zoomed in just a little bit. So what we're going to have right here, these innings pitched projections are the exact same of what we've had previously. And the important measure is we have about 1450 innings that we're going to go ahead and project. Roughly around 900. It's anywhere between 800, 825 to 900 innings are going to come from the starting pitchers. The rest are going to come from relievers. Some of the starting pitchers could come from other/DFA guys, which in fact, there probably is going to be some of those guys. There also is position players that pitch throughout the course of the season. And we have not assigned any sort of innings to any of the relievers quite yet. But this was the rough estimate that I had about a month ago with some of the starting pitchers. And we're going to look to see if we need to make some adjustments to these innings pitch limit, which, spoiler alert, we're going to make some of the adjustments that we have right here. And then we're going to prognosticate what is going to happen with some of the other innings that we have. So just review what we had talked about. Actually, we could review this sheet before we go ahead and review what we had talked about. The innings pitched totals are in individuals' regular season and postseason. Actually, it's regular season and postseason innings pitched, I believe, is what it is. So I believe this 111 innings pitched last year for Tyler Glasnow includes his postseason innings, if I remember that correctly. So that is what these innings pitched totals are. The reason why I have it set up this way is because it gives you a little bit of a better idea of the workload that each one of these guys actually took. For example, Yoshinobu Yamamoto did not just pitch 168 innings or whatever he pitched during the regular season. He pitched a lot more during the postseason, to where the actual total, both regular season and postseason, was 211 innings pitched for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I wanted to make sure that we included that, so then we can go ahead and leave some room for some of these guys who get some additional rest. In addition, included their regular season MLB ERAs by year 25, 24, 23. So the initial guess that I had for some of the starting pitchers was Tyler Glasnow with 100 innings pitched. Shohei Ohtani, 100. Riku Sasaki, 110. Emmett Sheehan, 120. Blake Snell, 140. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 140. Landon Knack, 35. River Ryan, 80. Gavin Stone, 20. And Justin Robleski, 80. The reason why I had it set up is I had the two kind of workhorses, Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Even though Blake Snell the past 2 years hasn't pitched quite as much innings, he is still somebody that you would have anticipated, when he is healthy, being more of that workhorse type of pitcher, dating back to 23, pitching 180 innings. And then Yoshinobu Yamamoto speaks for himself what he's able to do. I think, and this is just going off of what I have been hearing and just some of the additional thoughts that I have, I don't necessarily know if they want both Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto to go about 140 innings this upcoming year. That's going to be a pretty significant workload. Plus, you factor into account what's going to happen in the postseason. And if their use is anywhere similar to what they had, I'm not saying Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to come in out of relief. I would hope that the Dodgers bullpen would be good enough to where you wouldn't have to worry about that as much. But you're still talking about a potential addition of 20 to 35 innings for Blake Snell and Yoshi Yamamoto to where, man, do they want each one of these guys to pitch 170, or do they want them to have 140 additional innings plus whatever Yoshi Yamamoto is going to pitch during the World Baseball Classic early in the season, before the season actually starts? Do they want that wear and tear on each one of these guys, or do they want to at least scale it back, ideally a little bit? And I think that's kind of what I'm anticipating for each one of these guys, especially with Blake Snell and some of the concerns that we have going into even before the season starts. Because typically what happens, at least in the past couple of years with Dodgers pitching injuries, is you get a little bit of information and then all of a sudden there is a more extended period of time that an individual misses than I think what we're anticipating. And I think that is a major part of the Dodgers trying to go ahead and protect some of the pitchers that they have, especially the pitchers that they need to rely upon in October. So with Blake Snell, I think 140 innings at this point, perhaps, and while it was a little bit conservative, trying to give him some of that intended rest, might be a little bit too high at this point. I don't want to scale it back too much, but I'm going to scale it back just a little bit. I'm going to give it about 115 innings. That's 25 less innings than what I had originally have. Just scaling back a little bit from some of the workload that Blake Snell has, because I think the Dodgers want to make sure that he is healthy going into October. Same thing with Yoshi Yamamoto. I'm not going to scale it back quite as much because I think they're still going to rely upon him a little bit. But I think potentially 125 could actually be something where they could go ahead and do that. Emmett Sheehan, I'm still going to leave it around 120 only because he missed all of 2024. Last year, pitched about 100 innings overall. You could see that maybe going up a little bit, and you could see him potentially taking a little bit more of that workhorse type of load. But I don't know if they want to overly stretch out his arm as well. Roki Sasaki, I'm still questioning the 100 innings that I have right here, only because I think this is going to be a big year for Roki Sasaki and how effective he's actually going to be, because you have Gavin Stone, who is at the major league level, that was pushing down the door, or who's going to be pushing down the door for a Roki Sasaki if Roki struggles, because last time we saw Gavin Stone in 2024, he was fantastic, and if he had stayed healthy, he would still be part of the Dodgers rotation. You have River Ryan, who is getting a ton of traction that's part of this potential future for the Dodgers, and what he did during his very brief tenure and what he showcased at the minor league level merits some type of push in the rotation. And then you also have guys like a Justin Robleski, who, man, we saw him during the World Series. We saw what he is capable of, a left-hander that can hit 100 miles per hour. Get close to 100 miles per hour with his fastball, with the grit that Robo has. Robo has come up as a starter within this organization. He very well is going to be fighting for a spot. And if Yamamoto, Snell, Sheehan, Ohtani, and Glasnow are all healthy, none of those guys are going down to the minor leagues. The one spot in the rotation that you potentially could flip is a Roki Sasaki. So I'm going to actually hedge my bets a little bit. I'm going to downgrade it just 10 innings pitched for Roki Sasaki and make that an even 100 innings pitched. Shohei, I'm debating. I might actually give just a little bit more, 110-ish innings for Shohei Ohtani. Glasnow around 100. So that fills out this starting rotation that we have right here. Each one of these guys, at least going into the season, projected to be over 100, at least by my projections, but just slightly over 100. And I think this is going to be intentional for the Dodgers to be able to do this, because they want to provide these guys with as much rest as they possibly can and make sure that they get healthy going into October. So where does some of the other innings go? I think part of that comes with some of these other /DFA guys, potentially late in the season if they go ahead and trade somebody like Landon Knack, because he's not going to have any options for the upcoming year. But I think you actually could see a little bit of Landon Knack this upcoming year. I'm actually going to upgrade it to about 45 innings for Landon Knack, just because I think early in the season, and this is one of the things that I had talked about, I believe, with Jay in some of the comment sections that we have, which, by the way, if you have any comments, please sure to leave it in both the chat and in the comment section. I'll be getting into the chat in just a minute before we go ahead and prognosticate some of the relief pitcher innings. But one of the things that we had talked about is with Landon Knack, I think one of the things that they're going to do early in the season is, especially if they need spot starts, I think Landon Knack is a perfect option to be able to turn to a spot type of starter because I think he's going to be healthy. I think he's going to be ready to go for whatever situation they could possibly need. And with him being in his last option year, they're not going to have Landon Knack at the minor leagues next year. And with the rotation, the state of the rotation, and with even some of the arms that they have, I'm not fully expecting the Dodgers to have Landon Knack as part of this Dodgers organization after the 2026 season. So what the Dodgers can do is they can use that to their advantage. And instead of worrying about sending a guy up, down, like they would potentially with River Ryan, because you only get a certain number of up, downs, they can utilize it with Landon Knack, understanding that they have a very short time frame that they can utilize Landon Knack going forward. So early in the season, when they need that spot starter for just a day before they can go ahead and option somebody else down, maybe get an extra reliever, I think Landon Knack is that perfect guy to be able to go up, down early in the season, perhaps reassess where things are at. And if there is a team that wants to take on a very talented pitcher like Knack, who, remember, pitched in the postseason 2024 at the major league level, 3.65 ERA for Landon Knack at the major league level. I think they potentially could get some value for him, but I think that's going to be what his role is going to be. I think with more prolonged outings, I think that's where you could see guys like a River Ryan and a Gavin Stone come and enter the picture. Now, with River Ryan, I'm actually going to put this, just because he's coming back to injury, I'm going to put that at about 75 innings, just because I think he's going to get a decent amount of workload, but I don't think it's going to be overly extensive. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to upgrade Gavin Stone, because I think we're totally sleeping on Gavin Stone. Now I get it. Coming back from shoulder surgery is a massive task for pitchers to be able to handle. But let's not forget just how good Gavin Stone was during the 2024 season, when you have a reliable starting pitcher that posted a 3.53 ERA in 2024, who was main central part of that rotation, especially if there's been a lot of, and the only talks that we've heard about with Gavin Stone is that things seem to be pretty good with Gavin. I think he is somebody who, at least with the trajectory that he was on, was projected to establish himself in a very similar spot that Emmett Sheehan sits at this point right now, where he's firmly established as towards the back end of this rotation, which means that if he is healthy, if he's good, ready to go, I think we could potentially see a little bit more runway for Gavin Stone. Still a little bit concerned about where some of the health is. So right now I'm going to put it at about 50-ish innings pitched for Gavin Stone, and then go. Actually, what I'm going to do, we're going to make this 40-ish. We're going to go ahead and upgrade that to about 55. This is going to be some of my very loose adjustments that I made. Again, factoring in, there can be some other pitchers that are starters that go ahead and throw into this mix, part of that 50-ish type of frame. And this 900 innings pitch for starting pitchers does include 60 innings pitch for Justin Robleski, which I am not 100% certain on if all of these 60 innings are going to be coming from a starter or whether they're going to be coming as a reliever. So this is what I have as a very loose type of projection. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of an intermission with this, and we're actually going to go into the comment section before we go into some of the comments about some of the projections for some of the relievers, because I think this is a fun exercise. I actually didn't do this for any of the relievers. I've not gone through this exercise, so we'll have to make adjustments to some of these projections for innings as the prognosticator of all prognosticators, as I am. No, it's Funks on Field, that is that. But we're going to be going ahead and predicting this. But I want to make sure answer any questions that you guys have. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comment section right now. Happy to be able to take those. Mr. Classic, thank you very much for joining us. Craig Osterberg, thank you for joining us as well. Let's go Dodgers. Elishiva Jones, absolutely correct. Chuck Huddleston seeing 5 consecutive spring training games. I hope to see most of the starters. Yeah, I'd be curious to see which games you're actually going to. So just a little bit of a heads up on the schedule of the Monday shows, because on Monday I get the privilege to be able to do my own solo show here, Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. I will actually, so next 2 Mondays that they're going to have, so the 9th and the 16th, we'll have shows as normal. I'm not sure exactly the time. It's either going to be 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific, or just slightly later than that as it is today. Depends on what I have following the show on each one of the Mondays. But the 23rd of February, we will not be having a Monday show because I will actually be flying down to Arizona that day. We'll be staying in Arizona until the 27th to be able to catch a couple of spring training games. So if you guys are going to be out in spring training, be sure to say hi. I should be at the games in Camelback on the 24th and 26th, and then whatever road games that I can get to with the Dodgers, I'll be at that. But if you get to Camelback Ranch, go check out the backfields where all the minor league players are. That's very likely what I'll be seeing some of the players that are played for the Great Lakes Loons, or some of the guys that I've gotten to know throughout the system. So curious to see which games you're going to, Chuck. Craig Rosenberg, Blake Snell says he's going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I saw that. Blake Snell interview with David Vassay was very entertaining. And I think I did not get a chance to be able to watch his interview on Sportsnet LA, but he's a fascinating and really fun individual to be able to watch. CNAV, Christopher Devereaux, I think Yamamoto, Snell, and Ohtani should be slowly ramped up and saved for the postseason. I agree with that. And I think the slow ramp up, I think, is going to be something that's going to be really good. What's going to be interesting is how they go ahead and attack Yamamoto, because he's not getting a very slow ramp up because he's participating in the World Baseball Classic. He's getting up and he's going to be ramped up for the World Baseball Classic right away. Do you shut that down immediately so we can provide some rest? Or do you do hey, we're going to keep him at least early in the season, and then perhaps coinciding with Blake Snell is returning, try to find some way to be able to give Yoshi Yamamoto rest more mid-type season, maybe more in the late May to early June type of time frame. Could be something that you could look for Yamamoto. But I think providing those guys rest throughout the course of the season is absolutely essential for the Dodgers to be able to have some success, or at least keep the guys as healthy as they can be going into October. And CNAV says Ghost IL stands to keep their innings down during the dog days of summer, using some of their pitching depth. I think that is both a good thing with keeping your team with the best odds to win in October. It was an unexpected, and perhaps this is a weird way to be able to think of it, but I think it's in partially true because it worked out for the Dodgers, is unexpected blessing that the Dodgers missed a lot of time with Blake Snell during the season, missed a lot of time with Tyler Glasnow, since they were able to come back healthy into October. They got to miss a large part where they would have had to eat a lot of innings during the regular season, which took some wins away from the Dodgers in the regular season, but it set them up perfectly for October. So that's exactly exactly what happened. Let's see. Continuing on with a couple of these comments. Let's see. Terry says, my wife made me an event calendar to count down the days for the first spring training game with Dodgers picks all over it. That's awesome. Talk to Heart Shark, thank you very much for joining us. Zach, I'm going to guess it's Zach Gallen. Still a free agent if the starters are a little bit of a concern. Pitched 192 innings last year. You got to be curious to see what exactly he's getting, because he doesn't seem to be getting a whole lot of offers. If it is something where, man, you just need somebody to go out and eat innings, and the Dodgers just want an innings eater, and they're especially concerned about Blake Snell and a Yoshi Yamamoto and potentially some of the other guys within the rotation, he very well could be a quality option for the Dodgers to turn to. CNAV says, how many options does Alex Call have left? He has, I believe, 2 minor league options. The question is, who's going to be the 4th outfielder if not Alex Call, and who's going to back up center field if not Alex Call? I believe it's 2 minor league options that he has. Leo says, do you see any of the possibility of the prospects breaking camp with the big league club? Depends on which prospects you're talking about. For the most part, I'm not anticipating a whole lot of it, because you look at the openings of where this team is at, unless you're talking about potentially Alex Freeland. I think Alex Freeland has a very good shot opening day to make this roster, especially with a potential absence of Tommy Edman for opening day, who obviously is fighting to be able to make it to the opening day roster, but I think there's a real possibility that he could miss the team. And I think you could see a fascinating battle between Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim in spring training camp. This actually was something which credit to Dodgers territory, Clint Paserius, Katie Wu, Lana Rizzo, and what they were able to do, because they actually had a chance to be able to talk to Andrew Friedman last week. And Andrew Friedman was somebody who talked very much about Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland in the exact same category, which I believe they are in a very similar type of frame fighting for a roster spot. And I don't think that fans should immediately grant Hae-Sung Kim, because he had a little bit of success at the major league level last year, immediately a higher spot than Alex Freeland in the pecking order. In fact, I think there's less room for Alex Freeland to be able to grow at the minor league level as opposed to Hae-Sung Kim, to where I think there's at least a decent shot that Alex Freeland, if Tommy Edman is not healthy, I should say, that Alex Freeland is the one who makes the roster over a Hae-Sung Kim. In fact, this is assuming that a Tommy Edman is going to miss the start of the season. And if your choices are Alex Freeland and Hae-Sung Kim, right now, and this is very loose type of estimates, I would probably put it at 65-35, leaning Alex Freeland at this point making the roster, at least from a numbers perspective. Things can change in spring training, but that's how I see it. That's where I differ from a lot of other people that cover or talk a lot about Dodgers in this different space. So Alex Freeland could be a possibility when you're talking about prospects. Some of the other places that you could potentially look are a lot of guys that we've seen in the past come out of the bullpen. But if you're talking about pure, we have not seen this guy at the major league level, I don't think there's a whole lot of those guys that are going to be making camp. I'm not anticipating a Ryan Ward for reasons that I've specified earlier in the show. Some of the other guys that you could see potentially break out later in the season, like a Jackson Ferris, who we'll get to the question in just a minute. Tark the Shark. I'm not anticipating him making the club out of big league camp. I don't think there's any spot for him, nor it would take a lot of misfortunate events for Jackson Ferris to be in that conversation. And I think they would probably turn to a free agent type of options before they would turn to Jackson Ferris, just because they don't want to rush his development. Looking at some of the other guys, I don't think there's really any room for any position players, so that rules out guys like a James Tibbs or Zach Earhart or an Austin Gauthier, unfortunately for Gator. Hopefully he gets an opportunity at some point. If you're looking at some of the pitchers that are coming up through the system, there's a big flux of pitchers that are over in AA, or at least could start the season at AA or might make the jump to AAA. And so then you're talking about who are some of the guys at AAA. Perhaps keep an eye out for guys, I've talked about him a ton, but Jose Rodriguez could be somebody just to keep an eye out on to see what happens. He's on the 40-man roster, Ronan Top. We could potentially see him getting a good look at spring training. There's going to be some guys that you potentially could look at. Garrett McDaniels might be a dark horse type of pick. Even though he's a lefty, it would take some injuries in the rotation. He would be my dark horse type of pick to be able to make it. Somebody with at least a little bit of major league experience, but I really like the stuff and I really like the numbers that he put last year in the Dodgers system. So I'm not anticipating it just because I don't think there's a ton of room and there's not really any spots on the 40-man roster. But any of the guys that are on the 40-man roster, especially in the bullpen, you could see making a fight to be able to make this roster from spring training to the big league camp. Tark the Shark, will Jackson Ferris get big league innings this year? Potentially towards the end of the season, especially if they utilize, like I had talked about before, Landon Knack early with spot starts here and there, and then potentially looking to trade him at some point of the season. If you get into August and you want to go ahead and you need some innings late in the season and you want to give a look to Jackson Ferris, it's going to depend on how Jackson is looking in Oklahoma City, but it is a very real possibility because he's likely to start the season in Oklahoma City with how he ended last year. And if that is true, and especially with the amount of pitchers that are going to likely be at the AA level that are really quality pitchers, he's just one step away from making his major league debut. And we saw this with Gavin Stone, made a quick jump from Oklahoma City to the major leagues. We saw this with Justin Robleski, as we've talked about in the past, make that quick jump. I think Jackson Ferris is going to get some big league innings this year. I think they have enough depth to where it's going to be late in the season, and I think they're going to look to other options and make sure they prioritize the development of Ferris first, because I think he's going to be 22 years old going into this upcoming year. He's still incredibly young, and they want to make sure that he's developed as appropriately as they can be. Carol, happy Monday to you. Happy Groundhog Day to you. Happy Groundhog Day to everybody that is out there as well. Leo, I'm looking forward to seeing how Chris Campos is doing this spring. He should be getting time with the big league club. Yeah, I would expect or hope that Chris Campos gets an invite to the big league camp, which would be really exciting for Chris. He is, I remember him, I remember seeing him pitch. I think the thing that I remember most about Chris Campos when he was coming up through Great Lakes was an outing. I was actually, I had a flight out to Wisconsin because I was going to go see the Loons take on the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, and it was a Tuesday. So I had a flight from where I'm at over to Chicago, and the flight from Chicago to Appleton. And the game actually started when I was in Chicago, the Chicago airport. So I was watching the first inning of the game, ended up getting on plane to Appleton, Wisconsin, which Appleton over near-ish, just to give you a little bit of general idea, northeast, near-ish to Green Bay type of area. That's at least the general of area of what you're looking for in Wisconsin. So it's north. It's not a very long flight. Ended up taking an Uber to the hotel and then looked at my phone, and it was the fifth inning of the game. And I had to make a choice. Do I watch the rest of the game on my phone, or do I go ahead and go to the stadium? And from where my hotel was, I could see the stadium lights in the background. And so I decided, you know what? I'm here in Wisconsin only once. I'm going to go ahead and try to find my way. So I ran over to the stadium. I actually couldn't find my way into the stadium because there's some sort of fence that is blocking the stadium. Eventually found my way over there. Chris Campos was taking the mound during that time in late relief inning for the Great Lakes Loons, and he was absolutely phenomenal. Chris Campos, he just so cool and really crisp as a pitcher. Not somebody that's going to throw a whole lot of walks, going to be a little bit more dependent on throwing strikes. Just a really cool dude too. So I'm looking forward to see him get an opportunity coming up. Terry Craig, does Jack Dreyer make the team opening day? If it is just based off of talent, I would say yes, because we saw Jack Dreyer and what he was capable of last year. One of the things that we're going to point out in just a minute, once we go back to actually diving into some of the projections of the innings pitched, is I have a little bit of concern, and I've voiced some of my concern with the increased workload that Jack Dreyer had, to where I actually think some of the innings pitched might be a little bit lower than what people are expecting with Jack Dreyer, and I think that's only because they're trying to keep him as healthy as possible. Chuck Olson is going there March 14th through the 18th for you, so I'll be missing you during the time period that I will be down there. I'll be down there going to Dodgers games the 24th through 27th. I've got a good buddy, Zach, that lives down in the Arizona type of area. Left on base too often. Are you going to do meetups with fans? Austin and Casey coming too. So there's only a couple of ways that we could potentially make that happen. And one, it's difficult because I do not live in the California area. I have never been to the state of California before. Never been to a Los Angeles Dodgers regular season game at Dodger Stadium. I've been to regular season game in Detroit in 24, and then last year I went to one of the games in Pittsburgh. They did not do good that series in Pittsburgh, but I was able to make it to a game over there. So the only times that we'd be able to do that, especially with some Dodgers fans that are close, are potentially at spring training. So I'll be at spring training at Camelback Ranch the 24th and 26th this upcoming month. I will be at the minor league facility. So if you see or within that general area, feel free, more than welcome to be able to stop me, be able to say hi. More than happy to be able to interact as much as I possibly can with you during that time period. And if this is more of a question of if you are in the Michigan type of area, I'm at a ton of Great Lakes Loons games. Great Lakes Loons, for those of you who are not familiar, are the high A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's where my connection comes in, is because I spend a lot of time with the minor league affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Great Lakes Loons, which is absolutely amazing. So if you're in that general area, like I know Chuck Huddleston is making the trip over to Great Lakes, we're going to get him some tickets, get him hooked up with some of the tickets. If you're going to be able to go to one of those games, be sure to let me know, and especially if it's at Dow Diamond. I've got a lot of connections with the people over at Dow Diamond. We'll make sure that you're hooked up with some tickets and be able to do some sort of meet and greet, especially if I'm able to make it to some of the games that we have there. So that's what that is for spring training. Nothing that's going to be set up as some sort of meet and greet. So it's just more of a, if you see me, please feel free to say hi, and more than happy to be able to interact with you guys. All right. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go back into what we were talking about, because obviously today, Groundhog Day, we have to do a little bit of prognosticating. And what we've done Just a little bit of recap what we did earlier in the show for those of you who are just tuning in. These are the innings pitched projections that I have. This is based off of me solely, of some of the starting pitchers' innings pitched. Now, obviously, these are going to be wrong. There's going to be a lot of these that are going to be inaccurate. And in fact, there's going to be injuries that pop up too that make some of these projections totally irrelevant. But to account for the innings pitched that are needed, which again, we have 1450 innings pitched that we need to project. We have about 500 innings pitched that we can go ahead and sort out between the rest of relievers that we can divvy out. And this actually would be something that'd be really good because last year the Dodgers relievers were heavily taxed. And I would want to see the starting pitching or the starting pitching unit as a whole take a little bit more of that workload. Now, Justin Robleski, kind of part of this reliever mix, or you could at least make the argument that he could be part of this reliever mix. I have him getting a decent chunk of innings, in part a starter, in part perhaps a reliever. So it depends on where you want to categorize him. Justin Robleski, 60 innings pitched. What we're going to do first is we're actually going to talk about some of the main workhorses in the bullpen, and then we'll get to some of the other guys as well, talking through what we project and see how close we are to meeting the target of about 1450 innings pitched with some of the other DFA and position players, because there are position players that pitch during games. We got to assign them innings as well. Give me just a sec. I do a lot of talking during these shows, so I very much am somebody who needs water during this. All right, Edwin Diaz. Missed all of 2023, obviously pitched in the World Baseball Classic, had a celebration, freak accident happened to him, came back in 2024, pitched about 54, and then 66 innings pitched. With Edwin Diaz, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give him about 55-ish innings pitched. I think they're going to utilize him pretty heavily, but I think they're also going to be at least somewhat restrictive and not wanting to overbear him because, man, once we get to October, Edwin Diaz is going to be available as often as possible. He's going to be available, not saying the Dodgers are going to utilize him like this, but I think he's going to be available pretty much every single postseason game, which if you're talking about, man, in the course of the postseason, if you get the bye, you still need to go out and win 11 different games. Multiply that with, there's some extra games that you're probably going to lose. And you're talking about another potential 10 innings pitch, 10 to 15 innings pitch that are added on to Edwin Diaz, and that gets him to about the 70-ish mark. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this down to 50 just because of that, because I think they want to make sure that Edwin Diaz is healthy, ready to go in October. And while they're going to utilize him during the regular season, they want to make sure that Edwin Diaz is healthy and can pitch as much as possible during the postseason. Might raise that back up to 55, but we're going to put it at about 50 right now. Tanner Scott is the other one. Actually was pitched a lot, 79, 76 innings pitched in 2024, 57 last year. I think he can get close to this 75-ish inning mark. And I actually obviously hoping, but kind of expecting a little bit more of a bounce back for Tanner Scott, just because some of the peripheral numbers with Tanner Scott were actually pretty solid. He's not going to be in that closer type of situation. I think you could set up more of advantageous matchups for Tanner Scott to the point where I would probably expect about 55 innings, just slightly ahead of Edwin Diaz, who's going to be more of that traditional closer type of role. I would expect Tanner Scott to get a little bit more of a workload, and that puts him right around what his career average is, especially once you go ahead and add in potential October innings pitch, which you always have to account for October innings pitch. This innings pitch total does not include October. This only includes regular season innings pitch, and I think that's what they're going to target for a Tanner Scott. Going to some of the other guys, Anthony Banda is a real question mark for me, and the reason why is he has no minor league options. Your other left-handed arms are Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer, and Ronan Kopp, and a Justin Robleski. Real quality left-handed relievers to the point where, man, if you have Banda, Diaz, Gratterall, Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, Alex Vesia, and once Brock Stewart comes back healthy, that's 7 guys of your bullpen that you have, and you only have one guy that is optionable up-down type of guy. That's not a lot of flexibility. This Dodgers team needs some flexibility to the point where there could be real question marks. Does Anthony Banda fit on this roster really well? So for right now, I think they're going to utilize him early in the season, but I have question marks of how long he is going to last on this Dodgers roster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him about 25 innings pitched right now. Sorry, my cursor was right in the way of that number. I'm going to put about 25 innings pitched right now. Brusdar Graterol, I have some question marks about his health, as everybody does. It seems like he's going to come back healthy, ready to go for the beginning of the season, which if he is, that could increase some of his workload. Still going to be somewhat skeptical, put him about 35-ish innings pitched. That gives us 165. That gives us about 330 innings left for relievers. Blake Treinen, past couple of years, just 2 in 23, 59 in 2024, and 32 in 2025. He is getting older. I don't think there's a huge... there's going to be a huge pressure on Blake Treinen because I think there's some of these other guys that you can go ahead and utilize, especially with the return of guys like Kyle Hurt, Edgardo Henriquez, Ben Casparius, even when Brock Stewart comes healthy. I think there's going to be time periods where Blake Treinen very well could miss some time periods with some injuries to the point where I'm probably going to put about 35-ish for Blake Treinen as well. Just question marks with some of the health that both of those guys have. Alex Vesia, obviously, our thoughts and prayers go to Alex Vesia for what he had gone through during the postseason this past year. I think he's going to come back, and I think he's going to be extremely hungry to help this team, and I think he's going to be very reliable for this club. Past couple of years, 4.35, 1.76, and 3.02 ERAs for Alex Vesia. He is one of the main guys as part of this bullpen. He's not going to be optioned up and down. It's his last year before he hits free agency, and so I think they're going to utilize him quite a bit. I think similar to Tanner Scott, he's going to get pretty heavy workload coming out, left-handed reliever, and one of the guys that the Dodgers trust. We're going to hold off of Brock Stewart in just a minute. We're going to get to some of these other guys because with these other options, at least with the projected innings that I have right now, it's about 240 innings pitched that I can divvy up between all these different guys. So that includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different pitchers on the 40-man roster, not including any trade deadline acquisitions, which will probably not include any innings pitched from trade deadline acquisitions at this moment, or any of the non-40-man roster pitchers, which actually, we had talked about Jackson Ferris earlier in the show. Let's go ahead and throw 10 innings pitched for non-40-man rosters, make it a little bit more difficult for myself. Let's talk about Jack Dreyer first. 54 innings, and this is minor league and major league innings. I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of the workload that these guys have had. Jack Dreyer, about 55 to 57, 23 to 24, and then it bumped up to 80 innings pitched last year. Well, when we had a conversation with Fabiano Ardaya, Dodgers beat writer for The Athletic, there didn't seem to be overly a ton of concern with that. I think this is something where at least I have some concern, and I think the Dodgers are probably going to have at least a little bit of concern with Jack Dreyer going into this upcoming year, to the point where I think that might reduce some of his innings that he gets at the major league level. I don't think it's going to completely disappear. I still think he's going to get 45 innings pitched at the major league level, but I think it's going to eat into some of that going into this upcoming year. Another guy pretty heavy in the Dodgers bullpen this past year, Ben Casparius. When he was healthy, or at least when the Dodgers had a clear, defined role in the bullpen, you saw a ton of success for Ben Casparius. And I think they're going to, while he is, I think they're going to define his role as being more of a reliever. And I think that's the expectation for Ben, even though there can be some questions with the starting rotation. I don't think it's going to be something where the Dodgers are going to bounce him back and forth out of the bullpen to the starting rotation. I think you're going to see a decent amount of innings, about 40-ish innings for Ben Casparius. That leaves only 145 innings for some of these other guys. So let's go quickly through some of these other options just to assign different innings pitch totals. Edgardo Henriquez, I'm going to guess 30 innings pitched at the major league level. This is just going very loose. We're going to go through this very quickly. We're going to go about 25 for Kyle Hurt. We'll go ahead. We only have 90 innings pitched. This is running real tight. Brock Stewart, we'll go ahead and give him about 20, even though I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with him. Gives us about 90 left that we can go ahead and divvy out between some of these guys. Will Klein will go ahead and give, just because some of his numbers were really good down at the minor league level. Oh, we only have 45 innings pitched. We'll give Ronan about 20. That gives us 25 given up between Paul Gervais and Bobby Miller. We'll give Bobby Miller about 10. We'll give Paul Gervais about 10. And we'll give Ben Kasparius an additional 5 right there. So that gives us, with the projections, sorry, I was going through that fairly quickly. Anthony Banda about 25, just because I don't know how long he's going to be with the Dodgers in the organization. Edwin Diaz, 50. Brusdar Graterol, 35. Tanner Scott, 55. Blake Treinen, 35. Alex Vesia, 55. Brock Stewart, 20. Ben Kasparius, 45. Jack Dreyer, 45. Paul Gervais, 10. Edgardo Enriquez, 30. Kyle Hurt, 25. Will Klein, 25. Ronan Kopp, about 20. Bobby Miller, about 10. That gets you exactly to the projected 1450 innings pitched mark and provides a little bit of additional rest for some of these other pitchers right now. A lot more rest for the relief pitchers. You could perhaps see some of these innings for the starting pitchers go down and get put on the relief pitcher, just because that seemingly is what happens throughout the course of the regular season. What I wanted to be able to showcase with this is just a little bit more of a talk of is there some type of concern? Now, I think the Dodgers are in a little bit of a different state this year than what they've had been in previous years, to where I think the depth that they have as an organization with the starting pitchers provides a little bit of advantage, to where, man, they are dealing with a little bit of injuries, but I think they have quality MLB ready depth that very well needs to step into a major league type of setting and fill in a role that I think is going to get some additional opportunities this upcoming year. So the question that I had, and this is part of the title of the show, is there concern with Blake Snell and the starting pitching depth? I think part of the answer is yes, because I think it's fair to be concerned, especially when there is injuries that pop up to some of your main guys with starting pitching rotation. But I still think they have enough depth that they have to be able to help fill in the gaps. And this is especially apparent because, man, they're starting to make some additional moves to be able to add depth. Ryder Ryan, brother of River Ryan, was signed to the Los Angeles Dodgers on a minor league deal, likely going to get an invite to Major League Camp out of spring training, which we saw some of those guys make their big league debut and pitch a little bit for the Dodgers last year. And you very well could see perhaps a River Ryan start, turn the ball over to his brother Ryder Ryan. Could be a fun thing that we see in the regular season. Ryder Ryan being more of a relief pitcher. And then we see them pick up a potential starting pitching option to work with. And Cole Irvin, who last year pitched out of the KBO, previously made his major league debut. He very well could be one of those guys where, man, if you need a handful of starts here and there, you could potentially see a Cole Irvin fill into the mix, especially if you are missing a Snell, Yamamoto, plus some in the rotation, and you need somebody to just go get a spot start, similar to how I could see a Landon Knack giving spot starts to the Los Angeles Dodgers this upcoming year. That is a little bit of an overview. So this is something where I believe on one of the previous shows, and I apologize because I don't have the link attached, but I believe in one of the other videos that I have the link attached to this SharePoint. And what actually I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put this in the chat right now. This could be a view only. You can actually download this. You'll have to delete all the different videos that I have for right now or you have to delete all the innings pitched and the plate appearances that I have. But this could be something that you could work with on your own if you download this Excel spreadsheet to be able to go through, make all the different projections for innings pitch, and be like Punxsutawney Phil and project things going forward. Be a prognosticator like what we're trying to be on this show. Have a little bit of fun exercise being able to do it. This is a little bit more up to date because it includes the signing of a Kyle Tucker and an Andy Ibanez. I think the last one had Edwin Diaz, but a little bit more up to date. And I'd be curious to see where you differ or have a little bit of differences with some of your projections going forward as we try to project what's going to happen for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, this is not going to be completely accurate, obviously, and that was fully my expectation that there's going to be things that aren't correct but part of this. But this gives you at least a little bit of an idea what the Dodgers organization are trying to do, because while this might be one of the ideal paths to be able to provide some rest, They need to plan for some of the worst case scenarios and make sure they have the appropriate depth within the organization to help supplement the major league roster, which is why you're going to see the Dodgers over the course of the next couple of days as we lead up to spring training, perhaps sign some additional players to minor league deals. They don't need anybody to be able to add to the major league roster, especially since, and I know we had talked about this briefly, I believe Brendan Donovan is being traded to the Seattle Mariners. Not sure if that deal has been confirmed as of yet, but there's been very increased talks about him being traded to the Mariners as part of a 3-team type of trade. If that's not a possibility for the Dodgers, I think there's very limited possibilities that you could see the Dodgers making additions to this team, and that is okay. But adding some depth for the worst possible scenarios, because this type of projection, while there could be room to grow for some of the other pitchers, there also is some concern with the starting pitchers and the health that they have. Making sure you have the subsequent depth for any scenario possible, or at least the most likely scenarios, or even some of the worst case scenarios of the most likely scenarios. Making sure you have the depth to still win the National League West is important homework for the Dodgers to do, and I fully expect the Dodgers to be able to do that because we are getting very close to spring training, close to 10 days or so until pitchers or catchers are going to be reporting. Games will be starting here in a little under 3 weeks now from Camelback. I think it's 3 weeks from today is when the first game at Camelback Ranch is going to be. Super excited for that. Couldn't be more excited for Dodgers baseball. Spring training baseball, yes, it doesn't count as a regular season, but it's still super fun baseball to be able to watch, especially if you know some of the guys down in the minor league level who are getting opportunities during each one of those games. So excited for that. Let's get into a couple more comments before we go ahead and wrap up the show. Yes, left on base too often. Yes, I will be in Arizona. Feel free the 24th and 26th of February. Be sure to be able to, if you get to Camelback Ranch during one of those days, I will very likely be with about a dozen other people at the backfields with some of the minor league players during the majority of it. Feel more than welcome to be able to come up and interact with me for that. More than happy to be able to talk to you. Robert, thank you very much for joining in. Job well done, Austin. Keep up the good work. Doing an amazing job. Really appreciate the kind words and for the support that you have on the show. Mr. Classic, LeBron and Lakers are ready to move away with each other. Yeah, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to basketball, and it's not something where I just don't pay attention to basketball a whole lot, and I'm not associated well with the Lakers, so I wouldn't consider myself a Lakers fan, even if I was a basketball fan. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that. Chuck Huddleston planning on go June 4th and 5th Loons games. If anybody else wants to join, yeah, if you guys want to make the trip out, I couldn't highly recommend making the trip out to Great Lakes, which, by the way, today, a little bit of a different merch. I'm actually going to be doing this on some of my Monday shows. So actually, if you see in the background right over my shoulder right here, we have a whole lot of different jerseys that I have. I'm actually going to be highlighting some of these jerseys because they are sweet that you can go ahead and get. Let me give me just a second. I'm going to put the link that you can go ahead and get to some of these jerseys in just a second. Yeah, I'm going to get this right here. So the jersey that I have, and we're going to put the link in the chat right now. Just for you guys to be able to potentially check out. This one is an alternative jersey for the Great Lakes Loons. This is their Los Pepinillos Picantes del Norte jersey that they just released last year. This is their Copa identity, really a way to be able to honor the Latin American heritage, especially for some of the players that are from Latin America. Really fun nights that they do a couple of times of year. And these jerseys are absolutely spectacular. It's got a little bit of a gradient down at the bottom of the jersey. It's blue. Be sure to check out the link for that. Great Lakes Loons, great organization. Also, just a little bit more of shameless plugging for my friends over there. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Super fun announcement from the Great Lakes Loons. If you were here with John Vicari, play-by-play announcer for the Great Lakes Loons, he kind of gave a little bit of a hint of what was coming, potentially an alternative identity. You could be seeing a little bit more information coming tomorrow, or at least I'm assuming that that's going to be the announcement that they have. Super fun announcement that they're going to be having tomorrow. And if this isn't what you're going to want, that could very well be something that you're looking forward to. So just wanted to show that right there. But if you want to come out to any Great Lakes Loons games, let me know. I'll get you as much information as you can. And we'll go ahead and go from there. Let's see. Continuing on with a couple of comments. Chuck Huddleston, Ben Kasparius was used too much in a very short span of time, which certainly affected his effectiveness during that time. I think that's absolutely right. Chuck Huddleston says, I think Vesia gets more innings. Dawgs loves him in high leverage spots. That's very much true. Question is, they have a lot of different guys that they potentially can turn to in high leverage spots. And with the addition of Edwin Diaz, I think some of those high leverage spots that were there previously are going to Edwin because the ninth inning is covered. And then you're talking about a much shorter type of time span. And especially if they want to utilize Tanner Scott as a lefty in that time span, I think you'd see perhaps a little bit less of a workload for Alex Vesia this upcoming year, especially to keep him as healthy as ready to go. Spread out some of the workload for each one of those guys. CNAV, thank you for the support. Great show. Hit the like button for the fantastic comment. Yeah, absolutely. I would really appreciate you being able to do that here on the show. Let's see. Full confidence in Alex Vesia, who sorely missed last postseason. Absolutely. Mr. Classic says the Brendan Donovan deal is official to the Mariners. Yeah, so full trade per Mr. Classic. Deal is done. Full trade. Mariners receive Brendan Donovan. Cardinals receive, I actually don't know how to, Durangelo. I'm not even going to pronounce that exactly, but I believe, switch pitcher in the Mariners organization. Ty Pete and Colton Ledbetter. The Rays also receive, and two competitive balance B picks. Rays receive Ben Williamson per Jeff Passan. So congratulations to the Seattle Mariners. They are a really fun club. I actually was kind of concerned about the Mariners going into that World Series just because I saw a lot of room for potentially grow. And they were, let's not forget, they were one swing from George Springer away from potentially it being the Mariners in the World Series last year versus Los Angeles Dodgers, which Toronto was phenomenal, and they did a lot of things well and overperformed in a lot of areas. But Mariners have a good club as well. Tark the Shark, I thought Doc went trying in way too much at the end of the season. I hope he does use him less this year in high leverage situations. Again, similar to Vesia, they have a lot of different options to be able to turn to. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Mr. Classic. History Man, go Dodgers, and God bless. Gregory, what's the news on Sheehan? I don't have any inside information and news. My guess is he's still going to continue to be part of the Dodgers rotation, and they're going to pitch him as much as they possibly can while also trying to keep him healthy because he has the talent to be a main part within this rotation. I don't really have anything else. I didn't hear any interviews specifically. There very well could have been some with Emmett Sheehan, so I don't have any additional information. I'm excited to see what he does coming back into the season healthy, and especially with potentially some concerns to the rest of the starting rotation being able to healthy and last throughout the full season. I think he very well could be somebody where they could provide at least a little bit more heavy load onto Emmett Sheehan and the innings pitch that he's going to have, especially during the regular season. Emmett Sheehan, great Dodgers pitcher and really young, so talented, so excited for him. Yeah, really expensive. No wonder the Dodgers passed on Brendan Donovan. That is right. And he was one of the guys, alternative option that the Dodgers could have turned to, but they signed Kyle Tucker to a 4-year deal with an opt-out of 2 years. I will take Kyle Tucker over Brendan Donovan with the production that Kyle Tucker has, and especially on a short-term type of deal. So I'm still happy with that. Fun show today. Happy Groundhog Day to all of you. Hopefully I don't get stuck in this cycle. Otherwise, it might be a little bit of a different show that you see today. If it's anything like what the movie was, Groundhog Day. Hopefully that doesn't happen to me. Hopefully that doesn't happen to any of you guys as well. If that does not happen to you guys, Casey and I, I'm sure, will be have another show coming up. Hopefully, I believe we should have another show on Wednesday. Have not confirmed that with Casey, so that's very loose in what is scheduled, but that's typically when we're able to go live, is on Wednesdays as well. And then probably on Friday as well, trying to hope to get a little bit more of a routine going into some of these shows, or at least get as much shows as we possibly can for you guys. So hopefully a show on Wednesday and a show on Friday is what I should be able to join for you guys. But I can't thank you guys enough. Really grateful technology was able to hold up on my end. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Groundhog Day. God bless. Go Dodgers.